Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Aquí Alba Mar. Me pueden decir Alba en el canal Seriela, que estamos aquí para hablar de libros y algunos en español desde Puerto Rico. Hi again. My name is Alba Mar. You may call me Alba. The channel is Seriela, and we're here to talk about books. And I have been tagged again by Shawn for this wonderful tag called 6 Degrees of Separation. I will link his channel plus the original creator, which you must not miss because it is hilarious. The original tag, 6 Degrees of Separation. But first I want to give a shout out to Joe Smith, who asked about my air conditioning snafu the other day. I will post a picture of the results, and yeah, there was a tiny leak that I could never see, and one day I was making the bed and I noticed that part of the bedding was a little damp, and I said, what's going on? And it was that there was a tiny rivulet of clear white water coming down from the air conditioner and had puddled under the bed, which required me making substantial movement of furniture. And I took advantage of the situation to get rid of the headboard that was there, which I never wanted. So yeah, so the apartment is a mess, but there's going to be painting and there's going to be construction and there's going to be a lot of maintenance going on. So yeah, it's a mess. And today I have to go do this really fast because there's a march. Today is May 1st, el 1 de mayo, Día Internacional del Trabajador, and there will be protests all over the world, and Puerto Rico is one of them. So yeah, I'll be going again this year. Wish us luck. So in this tag, you're supposed to take 2 books which are maybe have no connection one to the other. For example, Patria, which is a history of Mexico in Spanish, written by Paco Ignacio Taibo II, Paco Ignacio Taibo II. Volume 2 includes the Battle of Puebla, which is the reason why Cinco de Mayo is celebrated. Cinco de Mayo isn't celebrated for me to put on a Mexican hat and drink tequila. No. Cinco de Mayo is to commemorate the fact that a ragtag army of peasants battled against a French army, veterans of different wars, and beat them and won. And that's why Mexico is a sovereign state. So I linked that up with From a Native Daughter, Colonialism and Sovereignty in Hawaii by Haunani K. Trask. And Google that name and search it out on YouTube, and you'll see her talking about colonialism and sovereignty in Hawaii. It's fantastic. So how am I going to link these 2 books together? I'll let you know. From Mexico, right, in Mexico, to Mexico, a group of Korean indentured servants arrived in 1904. This is a novel called The Black Flower, written by Young Ha Kim. This was a fascinating read for me because I had no idea that that was part of the Korean diaspora. I knew there was a big community, for example, in the United States, but I had no idea how far the Korean diaspora extended. Since that time, I've learned that you can find Koreans just as you can find Puerto Ricans all over the world. And this chronicles how a group of Koreans wound up on fields in the desert of Mexico, engrossing read. And then I associated that book, Black Flower, with another book about indentured servants. In this case, Chinese. This book is called Los Chinos en Puerto Rico, The Chinese in Puerto Rico, written by Jose Lee Borges, who is a Puerto Rican of Chinese extraction. He was raised here in Puerto Rico. This is a wonderful, well-written and well-documented history with full context. And now, the Chinese did not arrive in Puerto Rico as indentured servants. They arrived in Cuba, which had a powerful lobby of plantation owners who decided that when they no longer had access to black slaves, they needed mano de obra. They needed labor to work on those sugar plantations. So they decided to have scouts go to China and have Chinese laborers imported to Cuba. When these Chinese laborers in Cuba realized that they were little more than slaves themselves with the conditions under which they were working, many rebelled, and there were uprisings. And as a consequence, many were imprisoned. And that's how they wound up in Puerto Rico, in prisons in Puerto Rico. And as prison laborers, their hard labor included the construction of one of our main mountain roads, in which during that construction many of them died, falling down cliffs and mountains. But that is one of the most lasting and well-constructed roads in our mountains. They were constructed by many Chinese workers. Yeah. And workers constructing infrastructure, making infrastructure, is how West Indians arrived in Panama. This is Dying to Better Themselves, West Indians and the Building of the Panama Canal by Olive Sr. This is published by the University of West Indies Press. And yeah, that's how I'm looking these up. I started reading this. It's captivating and mesmerizing. To me, it's always interesting how different communities wind up in countries you would never think of. But yes, there are large communities of West Indians in all Central America, and Panama being one of them. And I linked up Panama with the Panama Papers, which is a nonfiction about breaking the story of how the rich and powerful hide their money. Because, as you know, Panama had become a tax haven for a lot of rich people around the world. This is a blurb by Edward Snowden, The Biggest Leak in the History of Data Journalism, by Bastian Obermeyer and Frederick Obermeyer. And I've wanted to read this for a long time, and I will. Why? Because in Puerto Rico, that's what they want to do to us. Yeah, we have, search it, Google it. Lay 20, Law 20 and Law 22, which offers a lot of tax incentives to millionaires and billionaires to come to Puerto Rico. We'll soon be on reservations in our own island. This talks about our debt, right? And how we got to this situation José Nicolás Medina Fuentes, La Deuda Odiosa y la Descolonización de Puerto Rico, which talks about how we got to the situation in which we are being converted into a tax haven. And how is that possible? Well, because we're a colony, and we've been a colony since 1898, which is when the Hawaiian Islands were also annexed to the United States. And that's how we get to the last book, From a Native Daughter, Colonialism and Sovereignty in Hawaii, Haunani K. Trask. Yeah, you know I want to read this book because I certainly don't want us to wind up like the poor Hawaiians in Hawaii. So yeah, wish me luck on today's march, and let's hope that the police can control themselves today. Yeah, cuídense mucho, mi gente. Adiós.